Today, our topic will still focus on carbon dioxide, and I will learn to switch the topic into ocean marine. Okay, sorry, marine life, marine creature. And I try to connect these two things, land and ocean, together. And have you ever thought about carbon dioxide can be absorbed by our ocean? How many of you know that? Yeah, only one and two. Okay, thank you, Yuwen. Okay, three. Since like most of you doesn't have this kind of concept, how ocean absorbed the carbon dioxide, and the lost water is quite important for human, right? Okay, how important? Okay, first things, all the life start from the ocean. This is the first things. And those living creatures in the earth will try to do the evolution with this environment, right? So, how much water we have on the Earth's surface? How much percentage was covered by water? 70, yes, 70. And I want to ask you another question. How much water we have in our body? 70 also, right? So human was trying to evolve with the environment and remain a balance between the human body and the ocean, right? So it's interesting, think about the relation between them. But those creatures living in the water may have different results. Like fish contain higher percentage of water in their body. And like jellyfish contains like 95% of the water in their body. So if you totally make a jellyfish dried, it will be like a plastic film, so thin. Yeah, it will be totally different. Okay, and before we start this class, I want to tell you why the carbon dioxide is important. And as human want to develop a city, we need the power, we need electricity supplied, right? So every day we turn on the light, we charge a cell phone, I told you that. But where are those power from? And I also give you a link before, right? The real-time power supplied statistic. Let's start from this slide. This slide talking about the equation, chemical equation. Like we're talking about the calcium carbonate, and I show you a coral, a shell, right? Do you remember? Yes, these things will accumulate the carbon dioxide in their body and use the carbon dioxide and the calcium ion to create their bone, their structure, bone structure. This structure will grow up like a tree. So they will store more and more carbon dioxide in their body. So I want to show you first a link here, which tell you the carbon dioxide flow on the Earth's surface. This data is published by NASA. We try to monitor the carbon dioxide density of the Earth's surface. Here is the ocean. Ocean has the current, right? Those tiny narrows here represent the direction of wind. So the wind was try to make a circle on the surface. And the lowest place with orange color has higher carbon dioxide density. But remember, this is the data from 2020. So now we have much, much higher carbon dioxide on Earth. It's air, sea, which means it only monitors the surface of the ocean. So we don't have the data on the land, okay? So I want you to do one thing. Use your cell phone to find out the carbon dioxide density in 2021. Let's see, can we find the data? Maybe or maybe not. Definitely, it's very easy to understand that the density of carbon dioxide in our air rising, increasingly, right? Annually increased. And Since you know that, and you also know if the carbon dioxide density is too high, those creatures will suffer and die slowly because the temperature rising also, right? And we all want to make it decreased. But how? I already told you the photosynthetic equation. I told you that the plant will absorb the carbon dioxide, right? And now I told you the ocean will do so. And by showing you a data offered by NASA, and you will see the carbon dioxide will not only located in one place, it's floating. It will float from country to country. Actually, all the human beings living on the earth share this carbon dioxide together. So it's called a carbon dioxide emission, right? It will from Taiwan to China to Japan, we all share the same things, like we all share the same water, okay? So the global is connected to each other. And in this equation, this one is important, is the density for different days, and it's 1 year, and you can see normally during the July and the May, this part, the carbon dioxide is rising. Why? Why the summer is higher carbon dioxide emission? Why? During the summer period, you can see the data is higher, right? But why?
Because we need more power to for air condition.
Yeah, it's a good point. We need to turn on air condition, and whenever we turn on the air condition, we release the carbon dioxide. Okay, but there is another point. It's interesting. I could give you this point because I'm major in forestry. Okay, the plant, those trees, those grass, those flowers, they are not so willing to work if the temperature getting too high. Okay, like normally we are in subtropic area, right? And the plant living here in Taiwan could tolerate about the temperature. If the temperature rising higher than 30 Celsius degree, 30 to 38 will be the range for those plants tolerant. Tolerant means they didn't survive so good, but they could keep survive. When those plants under a tolerance situation, they will release more carbon dioxide, and they will also release another organic vibrate chemical, which means they will be like air. And the CH4, 甲烷, methyl, CH4. If the temperature higher than 32 Celsius degree, the plant will release CH4, and this kind of air will also cause the global warming. So this is the reason, because now the global temperature is rising, average temperature is rising. So it's very easy for the environment, for our environment to get this temperature. And once we get this temperature, all the plants intend to not work so good on photosynthesis, and they will intend to release more greenhouse air. So this is the reason during the summertime we have a higher CO2 emission. Okay, in Chinese. 在这张图里面，在网络上这张图里面有看到，就是说这个温度和这个 carbon 二氧化碳的释放率在夏天的时候是比较高的啊。这个原因其实跟气候是有关系的。当植物在32度以上的时候，它们大概就会开始释放 CH4 这种甲烷的这种气体。然后呢，温度越高，这些植物就倾向于越不要做光合作用。那不要做光合作用，它们就会释放更多的二氧化碳。这个是植物跟气候之间的一个关系。Okay, I show you a clam, I show you an oyster. Oyster will be the major role today, actually. How many of you eat the oyster before? I want you to know that the western part of Taiwan, we farm oyster. How many of you know that? You know that in the western part, we have an oyster farm, which means we culture the oyster. How fast they grow. If you're selling the oyster in this farm, for how long you could harvest them?
Is it 8 to 12 months?
Yes, it's 8 to 12 months. And if you also go use the 牡蛎 and 养殖, this keyword to search it, the best, under the best situation, it only takes 6 months to 8 months to finish their growing period, which means they will get mature within 8 months. Quite fast, right? And the oyster have an interesting behavior. If they find a large house, they will grow up faster. If everything depends on himself, and he will build his house for himself, so it takes longer time. So this is the way how oyster farmers do in Taiwan. Here you see, this is the way we try to farm oyster. Those shares are not grown by those oyster baby. No, we put a large share in this kind of a way and put on the frame and dig them into the water. All the share was clean and empty. And the larva of oyster in the ocean will find out this share. They are very sensitive with the calcium carbonate. And all the calcium carbonate, I remember I showed you a specimen of a coral and of a sea urchin, right? The concept is all the creature in the ocean will try to use the calcium carbonate to growing their bone, growing their structure, okay? But they're not pure calcium carbonate. All their body structure was combined with calcium carbonate and protein, okay? Do you understand me? They combined with carbon carbonate and protein. And each creature have different protein in their body, okay? So this is the reason the pork and the beef taste different, okay? Because we have different protein. So a shrimp will have different protein. A coral have different protein. Of course, oyster have its own protein, okay? So the larva in the ocean, the oyster larva in the ocean will be attracted by this kind of typical protein. Okay, they have a sensor in their body. They will try to swim and get touch with this kind of a protein, and they live on. And they finally share empty house is a big one, and then they will grow very fast. Okay, if you didn't give them an empty and clean a big house for them, the shell, the empty shell for them, if you didn't offer that, it will take more than 12 months to fully grow up. Okay? Okay, in Chinese， 在这个地方我要讲的事情是，牡蛎是一个很有趣的生物，就是海里面的每一个生物都有它们不同的蛋白质，然后这些蛋白质呢，对牡蛎来讲是一个诱导源，就是它们会被这些蛋白质给吸引。在海里面，我是一个牡蛎的浮游生物的状态的幼苗，然后我会想办法去找到这个牡蛎壳的特定蛋白质，然后我就会接上去。然后如果这一个牡蛎壳是空着的，是干净的，然后是大颗的，那我住进去之后就长得非常快，我就不用自己盖房子，然后它就会在6到8个月之内就成熟。那如果你没有给它这样子的房子的话，它至少要花12个月以上才会成熟。Okay, but you have to consider that all the oyster share have two major components inside. One is calcium carbonate. The other one is protein. Protein will get stinky if while they degrade it. Okay, if they break the protein, break into a tiny part, it creates odd smell, ammonium smell. Okay, so I think you do have the experience to smell this kind of a dead fish or dead crab, right? That is a smell. That is a smell for protein to degrade it. Okay, so autoclimb will do the same things, absorb the carbon dioxide in their shell. Autoclimb will, and they grow quite very fast. And the other resource we talk about is the coral, right? We talk about the coral. We're using the calcium carbonate as their bone. We mentioned about that, right? But did they grow faster than the oyster? How fast could a coral grow? How fast? We use the centimeter to count that. Do you think a coral could grow? The gel coral I offer you is quite smooth and shining on the surface. They grow very slow, so they have higher density. But for the rocky 石头般的 rocky coral, they grow much faster. We could use centimeter. So how many centimeter they could grow per year? We talk about the coral in Taiwan, in Kending, the south part. Okay, we have a best condition for the coral in south part of Taiwan. So in south part of Taiwan, how fast they could grow? The answer is average growing speed for a coral is 15 to 20 centimeter per year. So if you see a coral in this size, it only takes 1 year from nothing to grow to this size. So you can think about that. We have a typhoon every year, right? And those strong typhoons stirring the water. While they stir the water, the coral will die, will be broke, because the wave is too strong. And all this coral was destroyed by typhoon. But every year you go to diving, you could see a bright and pretty coral under the sea. Why? Because if we cut a branch of a tree, this branch will die, right? But if we cut a part of the coral body, this tiny piece will regrow. Okay, you destroy your body into pieces, and every piece regrow. They will not die. And do you still recall I offer you a algal reef piece last time? Okay, we have algal reef, we have a coral reef, but they are living in totally different condition. As a coral, you need a clean water. As a coral, you need clean water. You need ocean current to bring the nutrition to you. Okay, if as an algal reef, you need still water, no wave. So the tiny algal will be able to combine with each other. Coral is like a branch, and the water, coral is like this way. But algae will like this way. Okay, if there are much water floating through the algae, they will be separate in different places, right? And it's hard to make them combine together and forming a reef. So they need still water. They need still water so they could be able to combine with each other. But for the coral reef, they use their hand, there's a polyp, to catch the plankton in the water, right? If this is still water, all the plankton here was eaten, finished, and they will have no food. Okay, and so they need strong water current to bring the plankton to land, so they will have enough food. And also, you see there are several different colors on this coral, right? It's because there are some kind of a colorful, tiny algae living together with the coral. with the coral. So to forming the color. And those kind of algae need sunlight to survive. This kind of algae inside the coral body will absorb the sunlight and process the photosynthesis for coral that produce the nutrition. So as a coral, if you are a coral, you have two ways to survive. First one, you depend on your friend, those algae inside you. They do the photosynthesis and create a nutrition for you. The other way is depends on yourself. You catch the plankton for your food. Okay, algae is not so lucky. Algae only have one way to survive, which means they only depends on the photosynthesis. Okay, so to forming a algae reef is much difficult than forming a coral reef. Okay, then we will go to that kind of concept in the west part of Taiwan. In the west part of Taiwan. Okay, go search a map, a Taiwan map. 我们用那个卫星的地图来看. We use the satellite picture, and you can see the color of the sea coast, western sea coast of Taiwan. And you can see this is a dark blue. Here is a little bit greenish and gray, right? Here is a river. Actually, you can see the sea coast. The sea coast is sandy. It's covered by sand in the western part of Taiwan. Okay, compared to the east part, the water is much clear, right? Because we have a strong current on the east part, and we have only weak current on the west part. And we have a lot of river that goes through, go to the ocean in the west part, from the east to west. Those kind of river brings mud from the mountain and accumulate in the west part. So based on this picture, you can tell me the water quality in the west part is quite clean and strong current, perfect for coral, or better for algae. Think about the condition of the water quality. Think about the water quality. I told you as a coral, you need clean water. You need a strong current to bring you the food, right? And for the algae, you need still water, stable water, right? And stable water normally means they are dirty. Okay? So the western part is perfect for algal reef or coral reef. Algal reef, okay. The west part of Taiwan is perfect for algal reef, but only Taoyuan district, this area, or Zhanghua district, only the middle part and the north part, we have algal reef. Why? Don't we have algal reef in south part of Taiwan? Do we? Actually, we don't. And the reason is because the water is too dirty. All the water we released in the river and goes to the ocean, let's produce too much toxic things that will also kill the algae. Okay? So I will go search another picture for you. Here is the picture of water pollution of our river. Quite colorful, right? All the chemical things we release in the river and it goes to the ocean. And if we adding more keyword, find out here, this one. If it's in the red color, which means it was seriously polluted. Okay, with the blue color, which means they're clean. And unfortunately, this kind of picture I remember is made in 2003, which means like 18 years before. And for now, all the western part, all the river presenting in red color. Okay, and where do we farm our oyster. We're farming our oyster in the east part or west part? West part. Okay, west part. If you go back to your home and you turn on your computer and search the Google map and enlarge map, and you will see the oyster farm on the ocean in the west part. But consider about what does those oyster eat as food? How they eat, how they feeding themselves. They will have to filter the plankton and the nutrition things from the water. So if the river produce dirty water, there's one report. It's not official report. Which means it's not truly being proved. Okay, but there is one data says if you eat the oyster from the west sea coast of Taiwan, you eat more than 10 per day, your body will not be able to handle. You'll get sick. You like to eat oyster? Consider about this number. Do not overeat of this kind of oyster. Okay, but you also don't have to be afraid of all kind of toxic things in your life. You don't have to. You don't have to. We do, our body have our function to release, to let go those kind of toxic things. Our neural system, okay, our neural system will be helping you to release those kind of toxic things, which means you need to drink more water. You need to getting more exercise and get sweaty. Those sweats will helping you to release the toxic things. Okay, the more you eat, the more you exercise, please. Okay, and then let's keep going back. This PowerPoint also lists some reasons that the coral reef will die. And now we already know the coral reef as the position as rainforest on the earth. Okay, we call the coral reef as the rainforest under the sea, which means they truly helping us to absorb the carbon dioxide, and their function is kind of like the rainforest. Okay, but this kind of rainforest under the sea will also die because of this reason. Okay, I give you a number like 35% of carbon dioxide emission into the ocean. 35%, actually higher. More than 35% of the carbon dioxide in the air will be absorbed by the ocean. Okay, and the coral reef, coral algae died and they will become bleaching, which means their color will turn white. Okay, all the color is from this kind of algae. Okay, and the dirty water reduces the sunlight. Without sunlight, those algae will die. When the coral in the first stage of bleaching, they will not die. Okay, this picture in the left part showing you, did you see there is a kind of like a fog things? There is something foggy and comes out from the coral, right? This is the moment. This is the moment this coral under a tolerant situation and try to eject the algae in their body. Okay, you can imagine that if you are a coral, you are like wear a fur coat on your body, and this fur coat is the algae. Okay, it's the algae that produces the color. If the weather is the temperature getting too high, too hot, you are not able to wear a fur coat, right? You will take it off, and this is the process. This coral try to take off this algae. They will just spew it out. Okay, spew it out, right? See, this is the moment. And if the situation goes to this bad, all the algae in the coral body will be ejected, and this coral polyp, the hand of the coral polyp will turn crystal, which means without the color, turn crystal, and it shows the color of coral bone, which means they will become white, the other picture shows you. If this is a healthy coral, they have a color and the algae live inside. If the conditions goes bad, they will eject this algae and turn to white color. But in this stage, they could still live for like more than 1 month. They will not die because they still have their hand. They could catch the plankton by themselves, but it wastes a lot of energy. Okay? So if the condition, even we go to the third stage, all the coral become white color. Within 1 month, if the condition goes to better situation, they could catch the algae again and store in their body and showing their color again. So it's not totally disappointed. Okay, and there is a interesting things. I want you to find this kind of a research. You know, we could make a coral reef better, even they are dying. You use the keyword sound, S-O-U-N-D. Use this word sound, and this word fish, and one keyword coral reef to search this report. And they will tell you, a scientist doing the research, that using the sound, he collected the sound from a healthy coral reef. And usually sound put into a dying coral reef. Okay, and this sound start attracting tiny fish to go to this dying coral reef. And interestingly, this kind of ecosystem recovered, and this coral reef regrow and become a better condition. Just only use the sound. So you could use this keyword sound, coral reef, healthy fish, and you will see how the scientists use this sound to do this kind of things. Okay, that's quite interesting. And there's one condition that make the coral reef turning white. It's the temperature. But always the temperature will kill the coral reef. Do you have any idea of a nuclear power station? The reaction center of a nuclear power station, the temperature is quite very high. If you didn't cooling them down, they will explode, like a Fukuyama nuclear station. Do you know that? Okay, in Chinese, 核电厂的中心，它的反应炉的中心温度是非常高的。如果你没有拿冷却的东西让它降温的话，它会爆炸的，就像福岛核电厂一样。Fukuyama nuclear power station explode. Why? Because a huge earthquake and a tsunami, right? This picture shows the time after the undersea earthquake happened, and turning like a hole, empty hole that sucked water into the gap that created by the earthquake. And then once the water all going in and filling the hole, and the water will come out. Can you, how to explain that? Okay, here is a hole of lost water. You can imagine like a huge water in the ocean will all come into this hole created by the earthquake. And once this hole was filled, still some water come in, right? And they have no place to inside this hole, so they will have to come out. Okay, this coming out water create a tsunami. And this tsunami in Fukuyama destroyed their cooling system of a nuclear power station. As a nuclear power station, you want using something to cooling the system down, right? Here is the control center, the reaction center, and we use we have a two-stage cooling system. The first stage, we both use water. Okay, the first stage we must use water. In the first stage, it's a sealed space, which means all the water in this area will not be able to going out to the environment because they almost directly contact with kind of radiation things. This water will absorb the radiation and become toxic, harmful. So this water in first stage is not allowed to release in the environment. And the second stage of cooling system, sometimes we use the water, sometimes we use the air, okay? This kind of cooling system will not directly contact with radiation center. So it's much safer in the second stage. So this kind of water can be released back to the environment. This is the way our third nuclear power station work. Okay, in Taiwan, in Kending, we have a third nuclear power station. Do you know that? And the first one and the second one is in Taipei, New Taipei City. Okay, they're located in different area. They both on Pacific Fire Ring. They all located on a gap between different platforms. Actually, whole Taiwan and all the Japan island was sitting on the Pacific Fire Ring. Do you still recall with the first picture I'm showing you, the Pacific Fire Ring? Underwater volcano, which means all the Pacific between the land and the ocean, those red line, this red line showing you they have volcano under the water. Okay, and you can see Taiwan is sitting here. Definitely on this kind of fire ring. Okay, and I want to tell you, all the country sitting on this Pacific fire ring, they all have nuclear power station. And if a nuclear power station explodes, it's an international affair. It's not only one country's things, okay? Because Fukuyama nuclear power station exploded, and within 2 days, all the radiation things was carried by the current and flow to Taiwan. Okay, we can detect it. We can detect the radiation things in Taiwan, in the water. So there's never be one country's things. 如果你去搜寻就是太平洋火山带的话，你会发现基本上亚洲的这些国家都是坐落在环太平洋的这个火山带上面的，所以他们也都会因为地震的关系，有机会导致像核电厂爆炸的事情。So if you want to convince me that do not restart the nuclear power station because we are located on the Pacific Fire Ring and we have earthquake, if you try to convince me with this kind of things, I may not agree with you because other countries also have the same situation. And any each country have this kind of things explode. We will not isolate it. We will still have to, working together and take this kind of consequence, right? But if you tell me the nuclear power station will produce toxic waste, and we are not able to deal with this kind of waste things, this kind of garbage, radiation garbage, I might accept because this is the truth. Okay, and I want to tell you another things related to the coral. Because the third nuclear power station located in Taiwan used the cooling water, the second stage, the cooling water they use. Do you ever know why those nuclear power stations located in the sea coast? We are an island country. We're surrounded by the ocean. And we still have different choice, right? We could build up a nuclear power station in the mountain area. But why we choose to build them in beside the ocean? Why? Because we need use this cooling water non-stop. Okay, 24 hours, we need to import this cooling water. And The seawater is free. We have a nuclear power station in Arkansas, the third biggest one in United States, and they use the water from the lake. Okay, so we need cheap water. We need cheap water to be our cooling water. Second stage, cooling water. The first stage is cooling water needed to be very pure. Okay, need to be very pure and very clean, so they will not damage the equipment. And the second stage, we could import them from the ocean and then release them back to the ocean. Okay, so all the water come out from this nuclear power station have a lower temperature than original one or higher temperature. Definitely higher, right? They have heat exchanging things in this stage. So we want to import the cold water and to exchange the heat. And then the water going out is warmer, it's hotter than the original one. Okay. The average water temperature in Kending in this area is around 28 to 29. Highest temperature is 29 in the summer season. During the winter, the water temperature will be around 24 to 25. Perfect for a cooling system. But do you know the temperature? Those water, after they exchange to the thermal things and release to the ocean, do you know the temperature? How high is them? They will be around 31 Celsius degree. 31 Celsius degree. Unfortunately, the perfect temperature for coral to survive, the perfect temperature for coral to survive is 27 Celsius degree to 28 Celsius degree. The best condition. Lack of tolerance as cold as 24 Celsius degree. Once the temperature is higher than 29 Celsius degree, they start puke the algae out their body. Okay, so unfortunately, this two coral is a picture from the releasing water gate of certain nuclear power station. They are all turning white. They are all died. The location is in Hobihu. How many of you ever go scuba diving or snorkeling in Kending? How many of you ever? Yeah, where you go? Nanwan South Bay. Okay, South Bay. South Bay is also quite very close to nuclear power station. This is the third nuclear power station. You can see the water color is milky white. They are hot water. When they contact with the cold one, the color change. Okay. If all the water in the same temperature, they will be blue. But if a hot water and cold water mixing together, they will turn into milk white for a short second and then become the same temperature. Okay, but because the hot water keep going out, so this area is milky white. Okay, it's not dirty, it's just because the temperature. And you can see here is the coral located in that place. And if you see, here is the place, Hobihu. Here is the place that our nuclear power station located. And here is the South Bay. Here's the South Bay. It's actually quite close to each other, right? The water temperature might be still high, but not that high. Okay, how many of you ever diving in Hobihu? No. Okay, so if I give you another picture of Hobihu right now, you may be very surprised. You know, I type the keyword Hobihu and directly shows diving and snorkeling on your keyword search, right? Only very popular keyword will list on the top. Understand, right? So, which means 后壁湖 is famous of diving or snorkeling. And you will tell me, well, teacher, you just showed me a coral bleaching picture in this kind of place, in this location. Why here become a very popular place for scuba diving? Why? Truly, those coral died as the environment recovered? Have you ever doubted of it? Okay, here is the truth. If you go scuba diving, here is now the view of our water. You can see those coral survived. Interesting, right? This thing happened in 1993. 1993. The first report tells us those coral was suffered by the hot water released by a nuclear power station. And they truly died. Almost 90% of them died. And then what happened? The original coral in a very high speed to do the evolution, so they could adapt with the hot water. Never, right? The evolution takes a million years. So the original coral was all died, but they empty a space. They empty a space for new species. Okay? We are in subtropical room, but we have a tropical room, right? Those tropical islands have tropical coral that can tolerate higher temperature. They could still survive under 31 Celsius degree. And only the nuclear power station water releasing gate, only this area, 后壁湖 area, have perfect temperature for those coral to survive. So now, here is the water releasing gate, and here is the area. Here is the area, 后壁湖, here is the area with the water temperature 31 Celsius degree. And the other part will be 28 or 27, like this temperature. So, subtropical coral living in this area. Tropical coral living in this area. Create an abundant, rich place for coral. So that's interesting, right? If you ever watch a film, a movie called Jurassic Park, there is a famous sentence inside. It said, life will find its way. Right? Life will find its way. Yeah. So if the water temperature rising high, the average water temperature rising high in our ocean, the subtropical coral may be able to survive in temperature room in future. Okay, which means the coral in Taiwan may be able to find it in Japan in the future, right? Actually, yes, we can now find several species, coral species, was originally discovered in Taiwan. Now we can find them in Japan. Water current brings them from Taiwan to Japan. Okay, so don't think those creatures will all die because of human behavior. Okay, I believe human will die first, then those creatures. Okay, then keep goes to this part. Human behavior do influence the coral. Okay, and then here is another thing we're talking about. We try to discover an algal reef. We try to erase partially of the algal reefs and build up a reception center, reception state for liquid natural gas. 用中文讲好了，就是我们现在在做一件事情，就是我们希望能够开发藻礁，然后建立一个液态天然气的接收站 ，liquid natural gas reception station. I'm sorry. in Taoyuan area. Yes, here is actually the map. Is the map of this reception center. Okay, it's in the north and the west part of Taiwan. And I told you the west part of Taiwan is a place for Oyster Reef to live, right? And I mentioned in last week that a hammerhead shark using Oyster Reef, using Taiwan Oyster Reef, used Oyster Reef in the west part of Taiwan as their nurturing place, which means this hammerhead shark laying their egg in this coral reef. Yes, just in this area. And if we just develop this area and erase and destroy this kind of coral Oyster Reef, and this hammerhead shark may not have place to laying their egg. But is it truly means this hammerhead shark will die just because we built one reception center here? Maybe not. Okay, let's consider things in different way. Maybe not. If life will find its own way, if this sentence is true, and we develop one tiny area compared to the whole world. Okay, we develop one tiny area. Yes, the original nurturing place for this hammerhead shark was destroyed, but hammerhead shark can swim. They could find a similar place to lay their egg, right? But unfortunately, maybe those animals doesn't so smart. Maybe they will not be able to nurse things so quick. Maybe they will still go back to this area carrying their egg, but find nowhere to lay their egg. And maybe they will die. Maybe. So this kind of future things we just predicted. We don't know the actual truth. Okay? But keeping your mind, we need power. We need electricity support. We need it. All the economy is based on this factory, and the factory need power to start their product line, right? Without electric power, we don't have future. But if we build this kind of receptor, the other creature will have no future, right? So how to make decision? Right? I won't convince you to vote your ticket to certain question. I won't do that. The decision is yours. I just want to show you all the options we have in our life, okay? This is a critical thinking. And I told you the Oyster Reef can grow only 0.1 centimeter, only 0.1 centimeter per year. Only 0.1 centimeter per year. If you dig a hole of this coral reef in this line, 15 centimeter, it takes 150 years to grow it back. Think about that. You're digging a hole. Easily you're digging a hole on the Oyster Reef. It takes 150 years to grow it back. The age of the Oyster Reef in the Datan area is already older than 8,000 years old. It's quite very old. We're digging a 50-meter deep hole to put the foundation on the Oyster Reef. 50 meter. 50,000 centimeter. 500,000 years, it will growing back. Okay? Like never growing back. Okay? So, but it's not rare things. Oyster Reef is not a rare things in whole world. compared to whole world, we can find algal reef in many locations. So as a hammerhead shark, they could find another place to lay their egg. Maybe, okay, maybe, right? Here, algal reef was constructed by these tiny algae, this one, and this one, red seaweed. Red seaweed could also absorb the calcium carbonate in their body. So this one is red, right? Still with their color. But if you erase the color, it's forming this structure. And you know, as a calcium carbonate, we use the calcium carbonate as a calcium supplement in our body. And our bone was made by calcium iron, right? So like me, I have not enough calcium iron in my blood because I eat a chemistry. I eat anthracene as a thyroid supply. I cut out my thyroid. I got a thyroid cancer before, so I cut it out. So I won't be able to produce some kind of hormone. And this hormone, we have to use anthracene as a chemistry to replace them. So I took the anthracene every day. But anthracene has a side effect. It will wash out the calcium iron in my blood. And if my blood doesn't have enough level of calcium iron, they will extract this iron from my bone. So I have a weak bone right now. If you hit me, I will destroy it. Yeah, easy to break my bone. Yes, it's true, but dare you try. Okay, I drive car, okay? Right. But I want to tell you, I eat calcium carbonate as a calcium supplement every day. But even calcium carbonate have a different form. Some of the form is quite active, which means you eat them, it's easy to be absorbed. But the other form, like if I drink a pork bone soup, if I cook a pork bone, of course the calcium iron will melt it into the water. And if I drink that kind of soup, it's non-active calcium, which means I eat 10 pots of the pork bone soup, still not able to compare with 2 tablets of all the calcium carbonate from the ocean, typically found red seaweed, is active form. So we could just erase the color of this red seaweed and we'll obtain an active calcium carbonate. And we smash them into a powder and reform it as a tablet form. And we eat them. And we have a good calcium carbonate supplied. Okay. And there is another way to make them even more efficiency. We combine them with, what is it? With protein, with tiny protein. And those protein is easy to absorb by our guts. So it's easier way to produce it. And you know, when we talk about a calcium carbonate, in the future, if we talk about calcium carbonate, please directly thinking about the oyster shell. Okay, oyster shell is made by calcium carbonate, and whole West Sea coast in Taiwan farmed oyster shell, right? Actually, most of the oyster shell is one-time things, one-time use. Let me draw you a picture and you will see. If you try to find a video yourself on the website, you can use the keyword oyster farming and shell clean. But the concept is, I put a large shell, clean one, empty one, into the ocean, and the tiny larva will live in here. And they will keep growing without absorb the calcium carbonate from the water, because he already have enough size of the room, right? But the shell we put into the water is only half shell. Okay, only half shell. Otherwise, the larva will not be able to inhere, right? So if I'm a larva, I'm an unlucky larva, I find a location and I decide to leave it here. No one helps me. I will have used double times to create a full shell, right? But if I'm lucky to find an empty house, I only need 50% of work, because we only need to create the other half by myself. So definitely faster grower, okay? Right. I'm the lucky one. I'm the first one to into this room and make it all mine. Other unlucky larvae will go attach on the shell on my body and growing their room on me. Okay? So after 8 months cultured, this kind of a oyster shell was look like this way. All covered by many oyster. Definitely inside is the biggest one. The other here is smaller, means less price. Okay, so if you go to the market and try to buy an oyster, you will see different size. This is the reason. The first one has the biggest body size. Once we dig those meat out, we have different shape of shell, but it's not clean, not pretty, like this way. And we will have to cutting them out, cutting the tiny extra piece out, and make the shell remain clean. This way. And then we could throw it back to the ocean. This is the process of oyster farming. They do it every year. But how about those tiny extra part, irregular part of the oyster shell? Useless, right? If you go to the west part, the countryside, they produce the oyster, you will see an oyster shell mountain. Let's go check the website. It's quite terrible and caused a lot of environment problem. Can you imagine the odd smell beside this oyster shell mountain? Have you ever eat clam, but you cannot finish your whole bodies in this clam? You left some muscle on the shell, right? Can you recall that? If you eat a clam, here is the meat, but here we will have a muscle, right? And this part is hard to dig out, okay? You use your human hand to dig the meat of oyster out of their shell. Definitely they will have some tiny muscle left on the shell, right? And then that will create ammonia smells. So it's quite terrible. If you living beside this kind of oyster shell mountain, you have odd air smells every day. It's a terrible smell. Okay, it's environment problem. And all the meat really remained in this shell will attracted the flies. And those flies will living here produce their generations. And those flies will go to attack other food in your daily life. okay, and they carry disease, they carry bacteria. And if think about you are eating an apple, and those flies stops on your apple, and you're eating the stops from this oyster mountain. It's quite terrible, right? So our government tried to solve this problem. First step, the hardest step, collecting land and washing land. We use your pickup, we use the trunk to carry them. To where? What is the best way? To clean it up? Use water or use fire or use wind? Water, you need to use a lot of water, and water costs money. And all those dirty water still will have to go back to the environment, right? So water is not a good choice. Yes, we use fire. We burn them out. They become ash, right? But calcium ion still will remain. The major component is calcium carbonate. The carbon dioxygen will release into the air, but the calcium ion will still remain as ash. And we collecting the ash, the pure ash, and to make some kind of a chemical reaction like this way. We combine with the protein, with organic acid. Okay, and then we create medicine. And the medicine sell good price. If I made a tablet, the original cost is $1. You know how much they sell? How many times they sell? Do you know? Do you have any concept? If you made one tablet in $1, how many times price higher you sell it? You know, at least 200 times. At least 200 times you sell it. And the most expensive tablet will sell like 2,000 times higher. So combine this kind of waste garbage with the medical system is kind of a good choice, right? So if you go to search Taiwan sugar, you search Taiwan sugar, and use PDF, and use the oyster share, and you will find out a journal already talk about how to make this oyster share into high price calcium carbonate. Sometimes the best way to use one material is don't use it, or keep them in original type, okay, and just let it be there. There is another research to talk about the oyster reefs. Since the algal reefs need a long time to grow, and the coral reefs will be highly affected by multiple factors. They are easy to die. We could use concrete block. We could use concrete block, use a storm, artificial storm, use an abandoned ship under the water as a reef for fish. But why don't we use oyster shell as a reef? It's a natural material, come from the ocean, right? And have many holes inside, empty space inside between the shell, right? Create a 3D space for other creatures to live, right? So United States start a research, the Navy start one project. They use a net, they use a fish net, West fish net, to holding the oyster shell and put many bags of the oyster shell into the ocean, just throw it back and create an oyster reef. And it truly success. Slowly, the natural oyster larvae go back to use this shell. And once this oyster reef was living with the oyster, the living oyster. And these oysters start working. They become a water purified system. They become a filter. Okay, they filter the water, they become a filter and purified the seawater for this harbor and create a good environment for other creatures. This is a successful example. And we don't have time to see the video. I will also pass you the link and you can see how they build up these things, this oyster reef. Okay, and then there's another report. I joined in green industry exhibition in November 12, I think, in Kaohsiung Exhibition Center. I've been there, green industry exhibition, and they're talking about use the oyster shell to create different things like, you know, like the floor, like the decoration board for indoor decoration. Like they could use the oyster shell to make paper, to make a tablet, to make multiple things. The oyster shell is truly a good material. So I list all the article I find in this link, and I will send it to you. Please read by yourself, okay? Right. And then here is another way. We was talking about a natural way to store the carbon dioxide, but now I'm talking about some artificial way. In Iceland, they already built up a company that focus on capture the carbon dioxide in the air and restore them under the soil. This is the way they seal it under the land. Okay, first, some factories that release the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is, compared with the power supply system, the carbon dioxide is majorly released by fire power station. Okay, once they burning the coal or even burning the liquid natural gas, they still release the carbon dioxide into the air. So they try to capture the carbon dioxide air here and try to use some filter to filter out the dirty things, dirty powder, and get the mixed air. And they will use another film system to absorb the carbon dioxide and purify it. And they can create a 99% pure carbon dioxide air and sell to the food market. Okay, this is the concept. If we didn't collect this kind of, you can see here, they produce a 90% carbon dioxide free, the processed fuel gas release to the air. But the other part, the capture system will give pure carbon dioxide for Earth. Okay, but in Taiwan, you know the Taichung fire power station, right? Taichung 火力发电厂. They definitely release the carbon dioxide, and they already have a system to capture the carbon dioxide and concentrate it and make it as a food grade air. And we can use it. Okay, these are some factors we need to monitoring them because we are on the earthquake place, right? So if we have earthquake, it might be break the soil layer. And if this layer breaks, all the carbon dioxide we stored under the soil will release to the air. So we don't want it. So we have a monitor to detect it, the earthquake. And we also have to prevent this kind of carbon dioxide was combined or absorbed by underground water. Okay, if water absorbs a lot of carbon dioxide, it will be acidified, which means the pH value will go down and will kill the animals living beside. It's not good. And well, we have also to monitor the soil, the carbon dioxide content rate. Everything has a limit. You put carbon dioxide in under the ground. There is a limit. You cannot endless put them in. Once they reach like 90% of their limit, we have to give up this land and finding another place. How about we putting them into the ocean? How about we put those carbon dioxide air directly into the seabed and evenly release out? Still some animals will use the carbon dioxide as a resource combined with the calcium, right? Forming calcium carbonate. Why not doing that? Yes, this is what we do now. Okay, we have different choice, right? This is the system I found in that exhibition. Here is the part they capture the dirty air from firepower station, and then first things they will be filtered dirty particle out, and then have a mixture air here, and they use some film to absorb the carbon dioxide, and then finally create a 99% pure carbon dioxide air into a cylinder. And in the future, we now try to build up another industry area that totally focus on carbon dioxide capture. And in this area, we could capture like 2,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. And for today, the price of 1 ton of carbon dioxide is 75.37 European dollar. So it's quite a high price, right? And if we capture this carbon dioxide and we start to reduce the releasing rate of carbon dioxide, and the IUCN and the national, 联合国, they will try to count the price of carbon dioxide, and they will give you some carbon credit, right? And if we reduce the releasing rate of carbon dioxide, we could also earn money from other country. So this is a win-win industry. Okay, and what can we do if we get a food-grade carbon dioxide cylinder, which means we put it in a sealed bottle? What can we do? You also drink some soda, right? Right? This soda was filled with carbon dioxide air, and it must be food-grade carbon dioxide. Okay, but is it good to drink a Coke with carbon dioxide? We call them carboned water. We call them carbon water. Is it good to drink this carbon water? The pH value is between 2.4 to 3.7, which means so very acid as a lemon juice. Okay, lemon juice is with a pH value around 2 or 3. So once you drink them, your teeth will slowly melt it. Okay, but it feels good, right? Feeling those tiny bubbles in your mouth feels good. I like drink carboned water. Well, but consider about that. After you drink those carboned water, will this carbon dioxide store in your body? No, they will go out. Right, they will go out. Either way, from your mouth or from other place, they will go out. Right, it's still not stored in your body. So the way the Taichung firepower station use may not be a good solution. Okay, may not be a good solution. Maybe we should store them under the soil. This is the machine that Iceland company built it. They use the fan, like a fan we have, to collecting the air. And here are some filters inside, and they will filter the carbon dioxide out. And here is the link. We don't have time to watch it. Okay, and then I offer you another journal that talking about the Gaia hypothesis. Have you ever read that? Yes, okay. If you read, yes, I give you a keyword as a Gaia hypothesis. Gaia hypothesis is talking about this kind of tiny, invisible, you cannot be watched by your bare eyes. They're talking about this algae, coccoliths, and they're talking about this coccoliths, wild, abandoned numbered in the ocean. Okay, these coccoliths will try to helping us absorb the carbon dioxide and forming their structure like this one, this beautiful one. Okay, but go read a lot of reference. I only offer you partially knowledge. It's not the whole picture. And after you read all those articles, you will see it may be not a dead end for human. Even we release so much carbon dioxide, we still have many ways, uncovered way. Okay, we keep finding out new species to helping us to absorb the carbon dioxide. Even the fungal. Do you know the mushroom? Yeah, even the mushroom can helping us to absorb the carbon dioxide. So, in my opinion, is we should slow down our development speed. We should, knowing those species we don't know yet before we kill them. So we will have more chance to understand their behavior and use them as a helper to helping us to solve the environmental problem. Okay, this is my opinion.